Hello and welcome to this special edition of Storytime at 9. Now, today is a very special edition for many reasons. One, the storyteller that I'm the biggest fan of. There's so many storytellers that I'm such a big fan of, and thankfully, for those of you who've been viewing this show regularly every Saturday, we are live at 9 on the Buckle Foundation channels on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Of course, today we also are live on the US Consulate General of Hyderabad, their Facebook page as well, because this show is a special show in partnership with the US Consulate in Hyderabad. And, because we are celebrating, the birthday of Martin Luther King Jr., who was born on 15 January. He was born in 1929. And this Monday is celebrated as the MLK Day. So this is in partnership with the US Consulate General, but otherwise, every Saturday, we travel to different countries with the finest storytellers of those countries who take us on a cultural journey to expose us to their country and their culture. Now, the United States is a huge country with very diverse cultures and very rich culture as well. So we have had already 2 sessions, and this is the third. We already had a special session on Texas. And then again, we had a session by Diane's good friend, and again, who's been a good friend of Bakul now, Margaret Reed McDonald, who took us on a journey to the Pacific Northwest, yes. And today, we are taking a journey into African American culture, particularly, around the ideas and the stories of Martin Luther King Jr. The interesting thing about Martin Luther King Jr., I read, is that he made a very interesting statement that to other countries he has traveled as a tourist, but when he came to India for the first time, he said, "To India I come as a pilgrim," because it was like a pilgrimage because of Gandhi. Now, we are very honored that we have the Consul General, Mr. Joel Rechman, here with us. Welcome, sir, to this show, and thank you very much for agreeing to talk to children in Odisha, and of course there are children from all across the country also joining in. Very happy to have you.
Thank you so much, Sujit, and good evening, young readers and listeners. My name is Joel Rechman, as Sujit mentioned. I'm the Consul General, the American Consul General of Hyderabad. And what that means is my job is to promote good relations between my country, the United States, and the states of Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, and Odisha in India. And I want to thank you all for participating at this late hour to hear my fellow American, Miss Diane Ferlatte. She's going to tell you an inspiring story about the United States, and we're really lucky to have Diane here because she's been a nominee for a Grammy Award, and when you're nominated for that award, it's really special. And she also performed for President Bill Clinton at his first inauguration. So we're really lucky to have her. And I also want to say how lucky we are to celebrate the birthday of a great American mentioned by Sujit on Monday, and that's the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. And he was an African-American civil rights leader, and like so many African-Americans at that time, he experienced racial prejudice and he experienced segregation by law. And segregation was the separation of black people from white people in schools and restaurants, and really the diminishment of the rights of black people. And Dr. King's experience inspired him to dedicate his life to achieving equality and justice for all people, no matter the color of their skin. And he did this by organizing people, by leading them in peaceful marches and nonviolent protests with the hope of bringing change in society. And he actually did succeed because the civil rights laws were passed in the 1960s, and that forbid legal discrimination by law against African Americans and other groups. However, what we are dealing with today, and this is where Dr. King's legacy is so important, is there's still bigotry, there's still prejudice, and there's still work to be done on making our society more equal and more just. As Sujit said, who inspired Dr. King? It was Mahatma Gandhi. And Dr. King visited India in 1959. And so there's, what's very interesting is, not just we celebrate this holiday, but we really look to Dr. King for inspiration. And really important people have done that. He was the preacher at the Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta. And I'm very proud to say that one of his successors was also the minister at the Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, and is now Raphael Warnock is his name, Reverend Raphael Warnock, and he has been elected to the United States Senate. So when we look at Dr. King, we look at inspiration, we look at hope, and that's why storytelling is so important, because it keeps that inspiration and that hope alive. So with that, thank you so much. And I look forward to listening to Diane with all of you. Thank you. Bye now.
Thank you so much, sir. Well, children, that was Mr. Joel Rechman, the Consul General of the US Consulate in Hyderabad, with which we are partnering this time, and we're very happy that he joined us. Mr. Rechman, of course, before he joined the US Consulate in Hyderabad, he was the Deputy Chief of Mission of the US Embassy in Dhaka in Bangladesh. And before that, he has had senior positions in Kabul, in Islamabad. So I can really see him as the South Asia expert in the US Foreign Service. So very happy that he's there in Hyderabad and engaging with us. So for those of you who do not know, Odisha comes under the Hyderabad. The US Embassy has different consulates in different parts of India. The consulate in Hyderabad, looks at engaging with people in Odisha. So there are a lot of interesting programs we have done together, like 3D street art with Tracy Leestam that some of you might have seen. But that's him, and that's the US Consulate, and we are very happy to partner with them. And my big hero, Diane, is here. We have not been able to meet physically, but we connected online, and she is not only, she's a storyteller. I'll tell you something. One day I was very low, and I just happened to click Brer Rabbit's dance, her storytelling video. And I felt suddenly, all my depression went away. I felt so elated. I was on cloud, I was just happy. I was just looking at her like this, huh? So so when she agreed, I was like very happy. Thank you so much, Diane, for agreeing to tell stories on our platform to children who come to our library and who've been with us in this journey. Thank you so much. And by the way, children, we will tell you, you'll know more about Diane later, but she grew up in one of the southern states of the United States of Louisiana, where she grew up in her grandfather's house, exchanging tales. She says even lies. Lies are wonderful tales also, right? Among neighbors, and they would always tell stories. And then she started singing in the church, playing the piano, learned this American Sign Language, and became the legendary storyteller that she is. If you go to her website, DianeFerlatte.com, you'll find that she has won almost every award there is to win for a storyteller. She was nominated for the Grammy also, and as she was saying, the one who won the award, and she didn't, was not really an oral storyteller. So if there had been a Grammy for oral storytelling, she would definitely have won it. So for all the parents, out there, she has won every award. There are in the US, they have a lot of these parents guilds and parents choice awards. She has won them all. You go to her website and go to a section called the boring stuff, and you will keep reading and reading and it'll never end. Right? So that's Diane. So, Dan, you want to say anything before we get into your storytelling?
I'm
Before I
glad.
remove myself from screen?
I'm glad to be here in India on a computer telling stories. It's wonderful. And
Okay,
I hope they enjoy the stories.
fine. So what we'll do is I'll now take myself off and we will hear stories from Diane right away. So I hope you enjoy. And please remember what I've told you earlier always. Definitely today, this is a storytelling session. I'm sure you want everyone to know that you are watching it. So please share and like this and put your comments so that your friends on YouTube or on Facebook know that you're watching this and so that they can get to watch this also. Over to you, Diane.
Hello, India. I am here. I am here in America. I can't believe it. On a computer, going all the way to India to tell you stories. I'm telling stories about a man who had a dream. The dream of a king, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He had a dream of freedom. And not just for himself, but a freedom for all of us. A freedom where there's no hatred, no hunger where people are hungry. A freedom without being poor. A freedom from violence, from injustice where everybody is treated fairly. What a dream he had. I believe in that dream about freedom. Freedom is a wonderful thing. 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 When you have it, but it's hard to understand what freedom is until you don't have it. Many, many, many years ago, when Black people first came to America, that's one thing we did not have. It's freedom. They took Africans from Africa, put us in chains, put us on boats and brought us all the way to America. And when we got to America, we were sold. People bought us. Can you buy people? They did back then. And when they brought us to America, they not only sold us, but they said, no more African name, no more African language, no more playing the drum. They took everything away. And they forced us into slavery. They made us work from sun up to sundown all day with no pay. People owned you. They told you what to do, when to do it, how to do it. And if you didn't do what you were told, you were in big trouble. So ever since we came to America as Black people, we have been fighting and struggling and marching and speaking out for our freedom. And back during that time of slavery, there was one young woman who wanted her freedom bad. Her sisters were being sold away to other people. Can you imagine being taken from your family and sold to somebody else? They were talking about selling her too. She didn't want that. So you know what she decided? To run away. But if you did that, you have to have a plan. Because many, many Black people tried that, running away. But when they were caught, it was not good. They were in big trouble. So she had to wait for the right time. But she remembered something a white woman told her one time. She told her, if you ever need anything, you come and see me. And she remembered that. So she waited till it got really dark. And she went around all the houses on that plantation singing a song to let them know that she was leaving. When the old chariot comes, I'm gonna leave. I'm bound for the promised land. I'm gonna leave. And when it got really dark, she took off running. I mean, she ran and ran and ran and ran. She ran for miles and miles till she finally came to that white lady's house, and she knocked on the door. Please. They opened the door, and when they saw who it was, quickly, come in. They closed the door. Oh, she was so tired and so hungry. They gave her something to eat, gave her something to, yes, and gave her a place to lay her head. And she was so tired. She went faster. But then, late that night, shh, they woke her up. Hey, get up, it's time, get up. They got her up, took her out the back, down the road to another safe house, and they knocked. And when they opened the door and saw who it was, quickly, come inside. They took her inside. Oh, gave her something to, yeah, you know, gave her a place to, yes. And she did sleep. And then late that night, wake up, it's time to go, it's time. They got her up, took her outside, down the road to another safe house. I mean, she went from house to house to house. She went from house to house to house. She went from house to house. She found herself on the Underground Railroad. Woo-hoo. Was the Underground Railroad really a train? No. The Underground Railroad was secret houses all the way up to freedom. And when she finally got to Philadelphia, to freedom, she looked at her hands and she said, I'm free. I'm free. But there's nobody here to welcome me. Her family was still down in Maryland. And she said, they should be free too. So you know what she did? She went back. Why would she do that? She went back. Not just one time, 19 times. And they say she got her family and other slaves, almost 300 other slaves, and brought them all the way to freedom. And you couldn't go with her, whining and crying, saying, oh, Harriet, I'm tired. Harriet, I'm cold. Harriet, my feet hurt. Harriet, I want to go back. You know what Harriet would say? There's no going back. Now, why do you think she didn't want anybody to go back? Yeah, they might be caught again and made to be a slave again. But the main reason she didn't want them to go back, if someone went back, they could tell how she did it, which road she took, what house she stayed at, where did they hide them, how did she cross that river. She said, nobody goes back to tell anything. If you go with me, you go all the way to freedom. And she said, if you hear those dogs coming after us, roof, 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 keep going. If you see those lanterns coming through the woods after us, keep going. She said, if they shout after you, come back here, keep going. She said, if you want your freedom, keep going. Do not stop. Keep going. And everybody that went with Harriet made it all the way to freedom. She became one of our famous heroes, Harriet Tubman. She was a brave woman. I don't know if I could have done it. I really don't. But many years after the slaves had been freed, way after the slaves had been freed, there was a little boy. His name was Junior. And Junior lived way down south in America, in Georgia. And he played every day with his two friends across the street. And their father owned the grocery store right next to their house. He said, they're so lucky they could get candy anytime they want. But those three played every day. They played catch. Oh, throw the ball. Come on. They played hide and go seek. They played tag. They had so much fun playing together. But things changed when they had to go to school. The little boys across the street named Tommy and Billy, they said, oh, we can't play anymore. And Junior said, oh, what are we going to do? We can't play anymore. And then Billy said, hey, we can play after school. We can play after. And Tommy said, yeah. And Junior said, yeah, we can play after school. So the first day of school, Junior couldn't wait. He loved schools. He loved books. He's always reading and learning new things every day. But after school was over that first day, you know what he did? He ran home, ran in the house, took off his school clothes and put on his play clothes. And he went outside to wait for his friends. He waited and waited, but they didn't come. So Junior went across the street to find out why they weren't there. And when he got across the street, he knocked on the door. And Tommy and Billy heard the knock. They came running down the stairs, and their mother said, Tommy, Billy, go back up to your room. Go on. But you go back up to your room. Go on. They didn't know what they had done wrong. And their mother went to the front door and she opened the door. And she wasn't smiling or anything. And Junior said, can Tommy and Billy come out to play? She said, no, they can't. Well, can they come out tomorrow? No, Junior, they can't come out tomorrow either. And Junior said, are they sick? No, they're not sick, Junior. Junior, you see, it's like this. You are colored. They are white. You go to the colored school and they go to the white school. That's just the way it is. And you go on home. Go on. And she closed the door. And Junior stood there thinking, colored, white. He looked at his hand. It was colored. It was brown. But everybody knows that. That's a fact. Just like everybody knows the sky is green. I mean, blue, and grass is green. What does that have to do with friendship? always played together. He didn't understand. So he went home. And when his mama saw him crying, what's the matter, Junior? Mama. And she said, oh, come here, baby. Come here. I know. It's because you're black. I know. And she told Junior about the black people who came over here and how they had to be slaves and work very hard and they had no freedoms. And you can see today, all those signs around town, you saw those signs, colored only, white only. We can't go to the grocery store because it says white only. We can't go to this store because it said colored only. We can't drink from this water fountain because it said white only. That day, Junior started thinking about all the signs. He did see all those signs. And that day he learned about all those walls that divide people. And he kept hearing all these big words. When he went to church, he'd sit down and his father was a preacher. And he would say all these big words about prejudice and discrimination. He didn't know what all those words meant. And he said to his mama, Mama, when I get big, I'm going to learn me some big words too. I want to learn a lot. She went, shh, I know. But Mama, I'm going to learn. Shh, not now, Junior. Your father is talking. But Mama, I'm going to learn me some big words. I know. And he learned so many big words. He graduated early from high school and went on to college. And he learned a lot of big words. He read a lot of books. And reading those books, he learned about a very important man in India. He learned about a man named Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi, who talked about fighting for what's right. But when you fight for what's right, you do it peacefully, non-violently. He thought about those words. You don't fight with your fists, fight with words. You're using non-violence. He learned a lot from reading Gandhi's words about non-violence. And you know, I lived down south too when I was young. I didn't live in Georgia though, I lived in Louisiana. And when I was a little girl, I was about 6 years old, and my daddy was going to take me downtown on the bus. We stood at the bus stop. As we're standing there, we're waiting for the bus. This is waiting in American Sign Language. And we're waiting. And waiting. And finally, I say to my daddy, Daddy, when the bus comes, can I put the money in? And my daddy said, oh, you want to put the money in? And I said, uh-huh. So my daddy gave me the money. And we waited and waited. And when the bus came, the doors opened on the bus. I just stood there. And my daddy said, well, go on, put the money in. Okay. So I got on the bus. I put my money in. And then I got off the bus. And I walked along the side of the bus with my daddy and got on in the back of the bus. Do you know why I did that? Because back then, Black people weren't allowed to ride in the front of the bus. We had to ride in the back of the bus. Those were the laws. Those laws were called Jim Crow laws. But there was a 15-year-old girl. Ooh, she was feisty. You know what feisty means? She didn't take any stuff. And she and her friends left school and went downtown just to do some window shopping. They didn't have any money. They just looked in the windows. And finally, it was time to go home. They went to the bus stop to wait for the bus. The bus came, they put their money on, went to the back. And this little feisty girl, her name was Claudette. Claudette, she sat near the back, right behind that sign that said, colored only. She could sit there. It was fine. She didn't have to go all the way back until a white person had to stand up. If a white person was standing up on the bus, Claudette had to get up and go all the way back and let them sit down. But she was safe there because they were the only ones on the bus. So she sat down looking out the window. And the bus driver was just going along. And as he was going along, more people were getting on the bus. The bus was filling up with more people. And the bus driver, he looked through his mirror and he saw a white person standing up. And he yelled to that girl in the back, Claudette, hey, you girl, get up and go to the back. You think Claudette got up? No. And the bus driver looked, he said, hey, you girl. I said, get up and go to the back. Did Claudette get up? And because she didn't get up, the bus driver stopped the bus. He got up and went to the back where she was sitting and said, young lady, I told you to get up and go to the back of the bus. Now you get up. You know what Claudette did? She looked at that bus driver and she said, no, it's my constitutional right. I paid my money like everybody else. I have a right to sit where I want to sit. You're not getting up? No, it's my constitutional right. She learned that in school. I guess they shouldn't have taught her, huh? But she learned that one. It's my constitutional right. All right then, said the bus driver. The bus driver, he got off the bus and he came back with two policemen. And the policeman said, young lady, you get up now and go to the back. Can't you see that white man standing up over there? And you get up and go to the back. And you know what Claudette did? She said, no, it's my constitutional. They knocked her books out of her hand, grabbed her by the arms. They drug her off the bus and put her in a police car and told her to put her hands through the window. They put handcuffs on her and took her all the way to jail. Ooh. Do you think the black people were happy about hearing about a 15-year-old girl being taken to jail? And all around the community, all you could hear was, what we gonna do? What we gonna do? What we gonna do? They didn't know what to do because they weren't organized yet. But 9 months later, it happened again. A woman got on the bus and she sat down. They told her to get up and she refused to get up too. I don't know if you know her name or not, but her name was Rosa Parks. And when she didn't get up, they took her to jail too. And the community was really upset. And you could hear them saying, what we gonna do? What we gonna do? What we gonna do? What? You know what they did? They had a great big meeting down at the church in that town. Everybody showed up. But guess who was in charge of that meeting? Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And you know what he said? He said, we're the main ones who ride that bus. We pay our money like everybody else, and we can't sit where we want to sit. Well, all right. On Monday, if you have to go to work, walk or get a ride, but don't take the bus. And on Monday, They waited to see if anybody was going to be on that bus. Hey, the bus is coming. Here it comes, here it comes. Here it comes. And when they looked up, the bus was empty. Yes. And the next day, they waited to see if anybody was going to be on the bus. Here, it's coming, it's coming. And when the bus came, empty. Yes. I mean, they say you could see black people walking for miles and miles, trying to go to work, trying to get to school. Even an old grandma was walking with her cane, 80 years old. And they said, Grandma, why are you walking? You know what she said? I'm not walking for me. I'm walking for my grandchildren so they could have a better life. And she kept on walking. And they didn't just walk one day, 1 week, 1 month. Do you know how long they walked? 381 days for their right to sit on the bus. And was the bus company making any money? No. And Claudette, Colvin, and 4 other girls went to court and they testified about it. And they found it unconstitutional in that town. Then they brought it to the Supreme Court. That wasn't enough. And the Supreme Court said unconstitutional. Those buses have to accept anybody who pays their money. And the laws were finally changed. It wasn't easy for change. And one day a man got on the bus and he paid his money. And the bus driver looked up and said, "Oh, aren't you Dr. King?" He said, "Yes, I am." And the bus driver said, "Welcome, Dr. King." And Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. sat in the front of the bus on the front seat. If you miss me from the back of the bus and you can't find me nowhere, come on up to the front of the bus and I'll be sitting right there. I'll be sitting right there. I'll be sitting right there. Come on up to the front of the bus and I'll be sitting right there. And if you miss me from the front of the bus and you can't find me nowhere, come on up to the driver's seat and I'll be sitting right there. I'll be sitting right there. I'll be sitting right there. Come on up to the driver's seat and I'll be sitting right there. Many things have changed since then. Some things have changed. It wasn't easy. A lot of protesting, using nonviolence, a lot of speaking up speeches, going to jail. Things have changed. We don't have to sit in the back of the bus anymore. We don't have schools that say, you can't come here because you're black. You can go to any school you want to. You can go to stores and go shopping and buy clothes and try them on. Before, you couldn't even try the clothes on. You can go buy shoes and try them on too. Before, you couldn't do that. You can go to any bathroom, no signs that said white only, colored only. Things have changed for the better. But there's still, today, some attitudes and feelings that we have to deal with. My grandson, Jalen, is 5 years old, just made 5. He goes to a preschool, and he's the only Black child in his class, and there's only another white child in the class. The rest of the children are Chinese, and his best friend in the class is Michael. Michael is Chinese, and they love laughing together, playing together. They play ball together. They have so much fun. I ask him every day, what did you and Michael do today? Michael's my best friend. But one day, recently, Michael came to school and he said to Jalen, I don't like your skin. And where did that come from? Why did he say that? When Jalen told me that, this is the story I told him. I told him this story. Way down at the bottom of the river, there lived a great big old crocodile. And every day, that old crocodile would float down the river looking for something to eat. Eyeballs would come up, and he'd be looking around for something to eat. Now, on the other side of the river, there lived Fanny the hen. And every day she would walk up and down the river looking for food too. She would peck here, peck there, peck everywhere. But one day, ooh, there came that old crocodile down the river looking for something to eat. Eyeballs popped up. He looked around and he saw her. He saw Fanny the hen on the other side of the river. And he said, chicken licking. His eyeballs went down. Ooh. And very quietly, he swam over to the other side near that hen. And when he got really close, he opened his mouth. And he thought, I'm going to eat you, hen. I'm going to eat you. He opened his mouth really wide, really wide, really wide, showing all 60 of those big teeth. Yeah, I'm going to eat you. And hen said, my brother, you don't want to eat me. And Crocodile was so upset. He snapped his mouth shut and went down in the water and he swam away. But while Crocodile was swimming away, Crocodile thought, hey, she called me brother. I'm not her brother. I'm a crocodile. And she's a hen. So the very next day, that old crocodile, he floated down the river looking for that hen again. Eyeballs popped up. He looked all around when he saw her. And he said, chicken licking. Look at that big, fat, juicy hen. He went down under the water and he thought, I'm really gonna eat her. Today is the day. He went over real carefully. And when he got really close, he opened his mouth really wide. I mean, really wide. He was gonna eat her up. She said, no, my brother, don't eat me. Crocodile couldn't believe it. He couldn't eat her. He shook his head and said, what's the matter with me? Why didn't I eat her? I love hens. He flipped his tail and went down in the water and swam away. But why does she keep calling me brother? I am not her brother. I'm a crocodile. And she's a hen, right? And I live in the water. and she lives on the land, right? So I'm not her brother. Well, the next day, there was Fanny the hen on the other side of the bank. And she's just going around looking for food. When there came that old crocodile down around, looking for that hen. Eyeballs popped up, looking all around. When he spotted her, ooh, he said, chicken licking. Look at that big, fat, juicy chicken leg. Today, I'm really gonna eat you, hen. Eyeballs went down, and very slowly, very carefully, went over to the other side. And he opened his mouth real wide. And hen just stood there. She held her head high. She looked him straight in the eye. And hen said, my brother, my brother, my brother, don't eat me. Crocodile was so upset he couldn't eat her. What's the matter with me? And he flipped his tail and went down in the water and swam away. Why does she keep calling me brother? I'm not her brother. I'm a crocodile, and she's a hen, right? And I live in the water, and she lives on the land, right? And I have these beautiful scales, and she has those silly old feathers, right? So I'm not her brother. I'm not her brother. Uh-oh. Crocodile began to climb out of the water and walk on the land. And while he was walking, who do you think he ran into? His good friend Lizard. And Lizard said, hey, Croc, what's up? And Crocodile said, oh, Lizard, it's that hen, Lizard. Every time I go down the river, I see this big, fat, juicy hen. And I open my mouth to eat her, and she says, brother, 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 brother. I'm not her brother, Lizard. I'm a crocodile, and she's a hen, right? And I live in the water, and she lives on the land, right? And I have these beautiful scales, and she has those silly old feathers, right? So I'm not her brother, Lizard. And Lizard said, hey, Croc, this must be it. Hens lay eggs. Ducks lay eggs. Turtles lay eggs. Crocodiles lay eggs. Hey, Croc, we all come from the same place, eggs. And that way, we're all our brothers and sisters. And Crocodile said, what? I, Crocodile, am a brother to hen? Oh, chicken feathers. Well, the next day, there was old Crocodile going down the river again, looking for that hen. And when he saw her, eyeballs popped up. With great big old crocodile tears in his eyes. He opened his mouth. And he said, good morning, sister. And she said, why, good morning, brother. And that's the way it was. Brother and sister forever. Because you see, we're all different. We're all different. I like what Dr. Martin Luther King said about that. We should celebrate difference until difference doesn't even make a difference. Down by the river where the crocodile roams, long sharp teeth and a big jawbone. The river is deep, long and wide. Down came hen to the shallow side. I don't know how many of you have cute little names that your mama calls you or your grandma calls you, like my little angel, or my little sweetie pie, my little pumpkin. Well, the little girl in this story, her mama and daddy called her Yoki. And Yoki, she lived way down south in a little old house with her mama, her daddy, her two brothers, and her little baby sister, Bunny. And you never heard so much excitement in that house until you heard these two words. You know what the two words were? Daddy's home. And when the kids heard that, they ran to the front door. Daddy, Daddy. And Daddy would walk in the front door and close it. Boom. Put his briefcase down. Boom. And then Daddy would let the kids kiss him on their very special sugar spot. And Yoki said, my two brothers, they had their sugar spot right here on Daddy. And my little baby sister, Bunny, she had her sugar spot right here on Daddy. But my sugar spot was the same as Mama's right here. But sometimes Daddy would let little baby Bunny kiss everybody's sugar spot. I guess because she was a baby. But after Daddy got his kisses, you know what Daddy would do? He would take the kids into the kitchen and he picked them up one at a time and put them on top of the refrigerator. Then he would say, okay, baby, okay, jump. And Yoki said it felt so good. And Daddy was always there to catch her. And Yoki would say, do it again, Daddy, do it again. All right, all right. He picked Yoki up and put her on top of the refrigerator. Okay, baby, okay. Jump. She said it felt so good. And Daddy was always there to catch her. I mean, she said she had so much fun with Daddy. Daddy loved playing with the kids. But Yoki's favorite thing to do with Daddy was to go on airplane trips. He was always flying around the country, sometimes on business. And when Daddy came home one day, he walked in the door, boom, closed it, put his briefcase down, boom. And then he said, Yoki, Yoki, we're going on an airplane trip. And Yoki said, I'm going on an airplane trip. And Yoki told her brothers, I'm going on an airplane trip. I'm going on an airplane trip. And you're not going. Daddy said, Yoki, if you don't stop teasing, you won't be going either. And Yoki said, okay. Well, that night, Mama packed Yoki's suitcase. Daddy packed his suitcase. They got up early in the morning, had a quick, breakfast. And pretty soon, Daddy and Yoki were in the car, waving goodbye to Mama and the boys. Daddy drove all the way to the airport, parked the car. And when Yoki got out, she carried her own suitcase. And when they got in the airport, they walked all the way down, checked the luggage in, and they walked all the way down the hallway, all the way past security, all the way going to the gate to get on the plane. And Yoki thought, I'm going on the airplane. I'm going on the airplane. I'm going on the airplane. But when they got to the gate, the plane was late. The airplane wasn't even there. So they had to wait. And wait. And wait. When finally Daddy said, "Come on, Yoki, let's go down to the gift store. I think I'll buy me a magazine or something to read on the plane." And Yoki said, "Okay." They walked all the way down to the gift store. And while Daddy was looking around at the magazines, Yoki looked around too. And she looked at every little thing on every aisle. She looked at everything when finally she came to where the gum and candy was. And she thought, which one do I want? Maybe I'll get this one. No, that's too sticky. Maybe I'll get this one. No, that's too many nuts. And finally she said, yes, I'll get this one. A chocolate bar. A chocolate bar with no nuts. She loved chocolate. And just as she had it in her hand, Daddy said, "Yoki, come on, the plane's here. We're going to be late." Took her by the hand, down the hallway, out of the store, all the way to the gate. And when they got on the plane, that candy she had in her hand was in her purse. They got on the plane, put their seatbelts on, and the plane took off. And while the plane was flying high in the sky, Yoki, she remembered that chocolate treat she had in her purse. And she opened her purse. She took the candy out. And she was just about to tear the paper off to eat it when Daddy said, "Yoki, where did you get that candy?" "From the gift store." "Did you have money?" "No." "Then how did you pay for it?" "We didn't have time, so I put it in my purse." Well, Daddy looked down at Yoki with a very serious look. You know what look I'm talking about? He said, "Young lady, when we get home, you're going back to that gift store and bring that candy bar back and apologize for taking it without paying for it. You understand me?" "Yes, Daddy." And he took the candy and put it back in her purse. Well, she felt so bad after that. She felt so bad inside. She didn't even look at her daddy. She looked out the airplane window all the way home. But just before the plane landed at home, Yoki took a little tiny peek over at her daddy. He was reading his magazine and he was smiling. So Yoki thought, maybe he forgot about it. Maybe I don't have to bring the candy bar back or apologize or anything. Wrong. Because soon as the plane landed, you know what Daddy did. Took her by the hand. They walked all the way back to the gift store. And when they got there, Daddy let go of Yoki's hand and he waited. But Yoki knew what she had to do. But she was scared. But she finally walked into the gift store and there was a lady standing behind the counter. And Yoki said to the lady, "Excuse me, Excuse me. Excuse me. I want to bring back the candy bar I took without paying for. I'm sorry. And the lady, she looked up at Yoki. She said, "What? Thank you, young lady. Thank you for bringing the candy bar back. What a sweet little girl." And Yoki thought, "Whew, that wasn't too hard." Uh-oh. Daddy. She knew she had to face her daddy. And she knew Daddy would have this sad, disappointed look on his face. And when she turned around to go with her daddy, he was smiling. So Yoki waved goodbye to the lady. "Bye, lady, bye." And she ran over, grabbed her daddy's hand, and Daddy looked down at her. He looked down at her like he was so proud of her. He said, "Oh, Yoki." And Yoki looked up at her daddy and she thought, how good it felt to do something right. And as she walked down that hallway in the airport, holding her daddy's hand, she said, "My daddy, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr." That's a true story, told by Dr. Martin Luther King's daughter, Yolanda King. He called her Yoki. The true story of Daddy. Dr. King wanted his children to understand about honesty and doing the right thing when no one else is looking. It's always the right time to do the right thing. No matter where you are, always let your little light shine, a little light of honesty and truth shine where people could see what kind of person you are. And his dream was to hope that his children would be judged, not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character, what's inside. And he wanted those children's lights always shine wherever they went. And I try to let my light shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm trying, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Oh, everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. That was a dream of a king. Dream of freedom to be who you want to be. A dream I hope someday will come true for all of us. Because freedom never dies, my friend. Freedom never dies. No one can kill the dream he had, because freedom never dies. Dr. King, he had a dream about you and me. He said, I went to the mountaintop and I saw it. We will be free. Oh, freedom never dies, my friends. Freedom never dies. No one can kill the dream he had, because freedom never dies. I hope you enjoyed those stories about a man's dream for all of us to have true freedom. Yeah. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much, Dan. I mean, thank you so much for shining your light on us. And wasn't it so soulful? I could go on and on listening to you. I wish we had more time. Unfortunately, it's already 10 p.m. in India right now. But children, I hope those of you who are watching this, you will thank you so much for being here all throughout. But then Diane is going to tell us a little about herself, her family, and show you some real pictures about what you heard stories right now. And you can also ask your questions. So please do type into the comments box, any question that you want to ask Diane, she will be able to take them after she does this little presentation. For those of you who are joining us for the first time today, just to remind you that Bakul Foundation Storytime at 9 happens every Saturday at 9 p.m. We go live on our Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter channels. Facebook.com, Bakul Foundation, YouTube.com, Bakul Foundation. So if you are, joining in for the first time, if you subscribe to our page, the YouTube channel, if you like the Facebook page, then you can keep watching all our sessions every Saturday. And next Saturday, we are traveling to Colombia in South America with a wonderful storyteller from that country. But then also, I just want to tell you about some beauties that we have at the library. So this is a book about Martin Luther King, I Have a Dream, a scholastic biography that when the library reopens, when things get better, things are getting better though, you can come and read. There is also 12 Years a Slave by Solomon Northup, a wonderful book, and Booker Washington's Up from Slavery. Those of you who are not in Bhubaneswar, you can definitely look up these books, but these are wonderful books that we have in our library. Those of you who come here can definitely check them out. But Diane, maybe we can see your presentation now. And those of you who have questions to ask to Diane, please keep writing in your comments box wherever you are, on YouTube or Facebook. Diane, over to you.
Well, the first picture you see on the screen is a picture of the woman who became one of our heroes during the time of slavery. The one who ran away and got her freedom, ran away 19 times, went back. Harriet Tubman. This is what she looks like. And this woman went through a lot, and she lived to be 90 years old. And I hope that I live to be that old. The next picture is about her family. There's Harriet's family. I think that's her on the left. And the young lady she adopted, I think. And then the second husband she had, because she went back to get her husband who was in slavery, and he had already married somebody else. So she ended up marrying a new guy, a new man. And this is her family. They had a picture of her. And here we go. Let's see. The next picture is, my family. It's 3 generations. The man sitting in the middle in the chair is my grandfather. My husband took this picture when he was 104 years old. It was the first white man who had been in my grandfather's house. And that's my father sitting next to him, and that's me and my aunt sitting on the bed. And that's a picture that was taken down south, where you could see those signs that were tacked up to let us know where we could go, where we could not go. This is the colored section that we could live in and play in. This picture is of a bathroom that was for white ladies only. You could see all these signs they would have around to remind us what we could not do. Another sign, colored waiting room. That's where we had to wait if we wanted to take the bus. And this is that feisty little girl, Claudette Colvin, who refused to give up her seat and went to jail. It's the article that was in the paper about her. And one day, I think she was in her 70s, a few years ago, my doorbell rang. And who walked in my house but Claudette Colvin? I was surprised my friend brought her over here to see me. And she was still feisty. She said, I would do it again if I had to. And that's Rosa Parks being arrested for not giving up her seat. And the picture at the bottom is her when the bus laws were changed, and she's sitting in the front now. Rosa Parks, that's what she looks like. And this is the bus boycott, when they refused to ride the bus and they were walking to work rather than ride the bus. And this is, they were marching from Selma to Montgomery for voting rights. They marched one time and they were met by policemen. A lot of injuries were made at that march, but they kept doing it. They didn't give up. And the more they did the marching peacefully, non-violently, more and more people joined in the march. There was this next one is Elizabeth Eckford, where schools were finally allowing Black people to go to the schools. This is a central high school in Little Rock, Arkansas. And she was being yelled at and called names. She thought she was going to be with other children, 9, it was supposed to be 9 of them, Little Rock 9, but she didn't have a phone, so she didn't get the news that they were all supposed to go together with the ministers around them. And she ended up going there by herself. And it was not a pleasant experience. They were yelling and screaming at her. And there they are, being protected by the National Guard to go into the school, Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas. And there is Martin Luther King going to India to honor Gandhi. He had a big welcome. Look at all the flowers around his neck. Yeah. There he is again, honoring Mahatma Gandhi in India. Martin Luther King. And there he is giving his great speech in 1963. I Have a Dream speech. Look how many people came. Over 200,000 people. It was huge, big. I have a dream. And that's the United States. To your left in purple, you can see where I live now in California. And my family used to drive every year all the way back down to Louisiana at the bottom and then drive back to California. But my family left there when I was 9 years old. My father said, Jim Crow, gotta go. And he left those Jim Crow laws and we drove to California, where I still live today. And there's a little town where I live. That's California map. Kind of in the middle of California. That's where I live now. Oakland, California, right across the bridge from San Francisco. And that's where I live, the town where I live, Oakland. And you can see across the water there, San Francisco. And that's the Bay Bridge. We have to cross that bridge to go to San Francisco. And that's the Bay Bridge. Another view of it, heading to San Francisco. Now that is the Golden Gate Bridge. You can go from Oakland and Berkeley over to another part, Marin County. That is the Golden Gate Bridge. I don't know why it's not gold, but they call it the Golden Gate Bridge. Oh, and this is where the internet started, where computers were invented, California. That's the Google headquarters. There's the Facebook headquarters. This is not too far from where I live. Uh-oh, I missed one. Where is it? Ah, that's Apple. It's like a big spaceship taking off, right? Yeah. And that's my family. You can see how things have changed in America. Look at all those mixtures of skin colors. My son, his wife, and me, and my brother, and my husband with my grandson on his shoulders. That's my grandson, Jalen, who's 5 years old now. That's my daughter next to him. And that's my granddaughter, Delilah. And that's me and my musician. You didn't get to see him. He was playing music behind my stories. Yes. And that's all I have to share with my photos.
Thank you so much. So let's look at the questions now. Santosh has, it's not a question, it's a request to visit Odisha, which is where I am. Now, Santosh, I am going to try my best to get Diane over here. Don't worry about that. And Diane, that's a commitment. You have to visit us.
I hope I do.
Yes. This is also not a question, but it seems more like a compliment. It seems like Subhashi says, how does Diane always manage to paint images in our minds through her words? So she could actually, I think when you showed the images in the presentation, she felt that she had already seen those images when you were telling the stories. So how do you do that?
Well, I think I just let those characters come through me. I try to feel what they feel when I tell those stories. If the characters are sad or afraid, I guess those fears and those feelings come through my body. I don't know. I let the story take over.
Okay. Yes, indeed. So Swati is asking if you can suggest some books on Martin Luther King Jr. Of course, Swati, this is one book that I would recommend, which
Yes.
is for children, a scholastic biography, which will be available in India as well.
Yeah, you
But
can find many
yeah,
books. You can find many books on the internet. Just to put in books about Martin Luther King, you'll find them. I have a few here, and the rest I get from the library. And I
but
recommend
any
them.
particular book you want to recommend? Anything you really loved about him? Any book on him that you really loved?
Not really. They're all pretty good. No. Mm-mm.
Okay. Yes. So I think Swayamjeet is asking about the connection between the United States and apartheid. Well, she talked a lot about it, but anything more you want to just say?
Well, it was very similar. Very similar. They had laws that stopped us from doing things that most people were allowed to do. And so those laws just kept us from being free. And so we had to do a lot of, like I said, marching and speaking out and for freedoms. So it's very similar, very similar. Except I don't think in South Africa, I don't think the people were actually bought and sold. That's the difference. Yeah, they weren't bought and sold. During slavery, people bought us. They owned us like they owned a car. And they could tell us what to do and when to do it. And they had more control.
So in a way that answers this question that Pushpanjali had of, have you ever faced the discrimination of black and white? I think you mentioned a little yourself about the past, but yeah, you can add a little to it.
Well, yes, of course. I was born in the South, and I was surrounded by Jim Crow laws, where I couldn't, like I said, I couldn't ride in the front of the bus. We couldn't go shop for clothes. We couldn't go to certain restaurants. That's just the way it was. And I got married in 1972 to a white man, which I never thought I'd be married to. And my mother-in-law, his mother, did not come to our wedding because she didn't know anybody black. And but years later, after she got to know me, said, you have to know people. You have to understand. You have to know people's story, know people. And once she got to know me, things changed. So, and of course, I've seen a lot of things where I've been treated kind of like different. Because when I fly, especially to India or going to other parts of the world, sometimes I'm the only black person on the plane, and that hardly happens to most people. But I look around and I'm the only. Last time I went to India, I was the only black person on the plane, and this man was going to sit in the aisle next to me. I was on the window, and the middle was empty. The aisle was empty. He came and put his bag on the aisle seat. It was a Chinese man, and he just looked around. He didn't sit down. He just looked around, looked around, looked around, looked around. He put his phone in the pocket of the seat in front of him. And then he just grabbed his bag and left. He looked around for another seat. But he left so fast, he left his phone in the pocket of the seat in front of him. And he sent the flight attendant back to get his phone. And another Chinese boy came up. He was younger. Said, you don't want to sit here? I will. And he sat down and we talked the whole way. We had so much fun. But I don't know why he didn't want to sit next to me. I don't know why. But that happens a lot on planes mainly. And we had, I have a lot of experiences like that where I'm on the window and a black man's on the aisle, and the middle seat's empty. And they said, we only have middle seats left. Take the first seat you see. They're on the second row near the front of the plane. You figured they'd take that seat first so they could get off the plane first. And the black man leaned over and said, ain't nobody going to take this seat. You watch. And they kept going by, looking at me, looking at the seat, and then looking at him and leaving. Nobody took that first seat in the front, the middle seat. Nobody. And he said, I told you. And that happens a lot. Well, they won't sit, and they would rather sit somewhere else. But I'm used to it. And you see it and you wonder, what's wrong with these people?
Okay. I don't think this is a marriage proposal, but Yashraj wants to know when you were born.
Hey, what is the question?
In which year were you born?
Oh, I'm old.
I said I don't think it's a marriage proposal. It's not a wedding proposal. But
no, I am very old. I was born in 1945. I'm 75 years old. And this month,
what energy!
And this month, I'll be married.
Sorry.
And this month, I'll be married 49 years. This month.
Wow.
Yes. At the end of this month, January 29th, I'll be married 49 years to the same man. To the same man.
Now, children, my dream is to be as energetic as Diane at 75. If I can be, I can have her energy at this age, I'll be happy. And I think if I'll have her energy at her age, I'll be the happiest man. But yes, congratulations in advance to you on 49 years of wonderful wedding. Hopefully, the 50 years will be celebrated in India with us.
I might make 50.
You will. So I think we'll end the session here today. Thank you so much, Diane. It was so wonderful and so soulful to have you. Anything you want to tell the children who have stayed on till now? And that's her website. Yes, DianeFerlatte.com. If you want to check out other stories by her, you can go to her her website. You can also look up Diane Ferlatte Storyteller on YouTube and check out her YouTube videos. You'll find many links on her website also. But Diane, anything you want to tell the children before we sign off?
I would say use your libraries. Get those books and read all you can, like Martin did, like Martin Luther King, and learn something every day. Learn something new every day. And when you can, of course, tell stories and listen to stories.
Thank you so much. Now, for children who are joining in today for the first time, I'm sitting at the Bakul Library, the library which has been set up entirely through people like you donating books and run by volunteers. So I hope those of you in Bhubaneswar will come and check it out. And for the rest of you, see you next Saturday when we travel to Colombia. But before that, those of you who understand our local language, Odia, we'll be back tomorrow in Rabibar Gopabar. Diane, in my language, Odia, Rabibar Gopabar means Sunday Story Day. So we have the storytelling in Odia every Sunday at 9 p.m. on the same channels. So see you, Tata, bye, and hope to see you soon.
Bye-bye.
In education that we are trying to promote reading. As statistics say, if 50% children in grade 5 cannot read the textbook of grade 2, then what is really happening? That's because the basic skills of reading and writing is not there. So we thought that if we have to change this cynicism, then we need to demonstrate what is possible with small contributions. So that is the idea basically that Bakul is trying to demonstrate, what is possible entirely with volunteerism, entirely with small little contributions. We asked people to contribute books to set up a public library in Bhubaneswar, and a children's library was set up in Bhubaneswar, and now that children's library has become a general library, a public library with more than 20,000 books. So that is one of the major things. Another major area of intervention is environment, a lot of environmental education, but through films and through creative methods. So we have a traveling film festival on environment. We go to schools, colleges, apartments and screen films on environment. primarily on climate change and on issues of water and sanitation, two issues that we're working in. And at the libraries also, we conduct a lot of workshops on creativity. You know, we all want the world to be a better place, and we have our own ideas of how it can be better. The thing is, can we all start in some small way towards addressing that? Can we say that in some small way, this world is the way I want it to be because I have done something about it?